Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, Aaron Locks and Dr. Michael Herbert explore how to keep youth sports fun while building skills, confidence, and life lessons for young athletes.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Youth Sports Mastery. I'm Aaron Locks. I'm your host, and I am excited once again to get to share, like we do each week, conversations with amazing people about youth sports. Today is going to be an extra special fun one. I've got a really good friend of mine who I've known a long time, and we're really going to dive into, if you're a parent out there, how does this journey work when your kid's 4-year-old versus 14-year-old, and maybe give you some insights, talk about some goals, talk about some teaching and coaching. So if you're a youth sports coach, if you're in Parks and Recreation and you're in the youth sports space, if you're a coach, if you're a parent, if you're engaged in any way in youth sports, you definitely want to check this out. So let's go ahead and let's run the spots. When we come to the other side, I'll go introduce my guest, Dr. Herbert. Let's do it.
It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all. The passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you for showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one. Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of parks and recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series: Insights from the Leaders Shaping Our Industry. Facility Maintenance: The backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network: Empowering the next generation of parks and rec leaders. The Rec Room: Real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery: Elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward: Innovation driving the future of recreation. On the Front Line: Honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute: The journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life: Everything aquatics, safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, a show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network, connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hey, every time I think about what DPRS is doing, I'm so excited to be one of the first shows and been able to dig through this process. Today, we're going to really dive in, and we're going to have some great questions and answers back and forth. Some of you are able to connect with us either through LinkedIn or through Facebook. So please keep those messages coming. We love getting the live conversation as we go through this process. So, Joby, let's bring out our guest. Dr. Michael Herbert has been a friend of mine since he was a camper back in the day of the Golden State Warriors camp. And I won't mention what year it was, before the turn of the century. How about that? Is that fair enough?
Yeah, back in the 1900s.
The 1900s. Oh, my word. Hey, Dr. Mike, would you do me a favor? I don't even know how to introduce you, because it's like, okay, player, coach, college coach, recruiter, AD slash fundraiser slash, what do you got? How's the best to explain you?
Teacher. I like teacher. My current position, I am an assistant athletic director at Cal Poly Humboldt in beautiful Arcata, California, Northern California. But my background has just been teaching, and I use that broadly. Yes, I've coached high school, I've coached collegiately, I've been in administration now, but in all of those roles, I really think that's the main thing, whether it's teaching athletes or working with coaches to help them be better coaches, better teachers. That's what I do, I think, every day. And that's what I really enjoy doing. Yeah.
I love it. Well, and there's a lot to that. And it's funny because, we do coaches clinics, and we've done some, and actually I had you do some for the National Cav Athletics, but I always love to ask coaches, okay, how many teachers do we have in the room today? And, they take their time. No one quite gets it. And about 4 times later, they go, duh, I'm a teacher, right? Because that's what we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've told, anytime I do those too, if it's the mom or dad who are volunteering, I tell them to go actually find a school teacher to be your assistant coach, because they may have some of the tricks and the tools that are going to help you just manage a group of 30 kids, right? That you don't necessarily have. You can, as a parent, you can manage 1 or 2 kids, but it's a little different when you got 10 to 30 kids out there.
Herding cats, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Exactly. Classroom management, let's be real. I mean, that's a thing. That's where our talk, teach, play comes from, that whole deal. All right. So I want to dive in. Like I said earlier today, if you're a coach, if you're a parent volunteer coach, if you're got a child and you're kind of looking through this journey, we're going to dive in here. And Mike and I are going to talk a little bit about through the ages. Let's go back. Now, by the way, you're a parent. I'm a parent. We've got kids that played sports, have gone all the way through the gamut, right? And my kids played minimal amount of club or travel, primarily in the rec space, little league and football in high school and basketball and, all that, right? And you're kind of the same boat. But I think it's really important that we kind of start with, let's start with the littles, okay? So I'm going to ask you, what age do you think? We're going to go 4 to 14, because obviously we don't have, I'm still a big kid. I'm over. Anyways, yes, diving in. So let's say little kids, 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. What should the primary goal be, do you think, for a 4 or 5 year old?
Basic fundamental movement skills. I mean, any physical educator, any movement educator will tell you that's all you should be focusing on. Hopping, skipping, galloping, running, throwing, all of those basic fundamental motor movement skills. They are the backbone of any athlete later on in life. And I'm not saying just a actual high school or collegiate athlete. If you're still competing as a master's level swimmer at the age of 60, you still had to have those basic fundamental motor movement skills when you were little. If you don't get those early on, it's really hard to teach them later. It's really no different than math or writing or reading. If you teach a kid at age 4 to love to read, that kid is going to read forever, and things will just be so much easier for them. And it's the same thing with movement education.
So you don't want to start with the 4-year-old teaching them a double play? Is that what I'm hearing? Right?
No double plays. They don't even know. They'll look at you like you're crazy and you're speaking a different language anyways. And their attention span is short. That's why, kindergarten, preschool, if they actually have PE, their PE classes are 15 to 30 minutes at max.
Yeah.
Not like middle school and high school will get up to 45, 50 minutes or an hour, because their attention span isn't there. You can't exercise for that long. You have to focus on those basic fundamental movement skills and keep it very simple.
Keep it simple. I love that. And, we run the junior academy, which is basically 4 to 6 year olds. But even those younger kids, I think the key to me is if we can keep it fun,
Mhm.
lots of colors, lots of movement with the cones and giving them basic idea. But like you said, just learning balance. I look at
Mhm.
my granddaughter who's 4 years old, and they got a balance beam that's literally on the floor.
Mhm.
You're like, what does that do? Well, it teaches them to walk, foot over
Mhm.
foot, balance, all those kind of stuff. We start to teach once they get to 5, 6, we start to add in like hand-eye coordination stuff
Mhm.
with scarves, just even the ability to throw a ball up and catch it with your left hand.
Mhm.
Throw it up your right hand, the spatial awareness, right? All the different factors across
Yep.
the board. But I want to make sure parents hear us that it doesn't mean they can't start out in sports at that age, but
Yep.
the goal, what is that goal? Because I think what happens sometimes, I've seen kids, now we go 4 to 6, 4 to 7 years old, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, Mike, your kid, you know what? We're going to get him college scholarship. I know he's only 7, but it's time to go year round, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You see a little bit of a glimpse of a kid's kind of an athlete, right? They've shown some early success. So like, oh, we got to pigeonhole them and put them in here. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them competing and playing and doing that, but you still can't forget that fundamental development and age appropriate development that goes on, because we've talked about the zone of proximal development before, and really putting kids in a position to be successful. If you do too much, you can burn them out. If you don't do enough, they get disinterested. You've really got to be careful and be aware of what you're doing and make sure you're actually letting them be a kid too. Because I mean, you and I growing up too, we didn't have all these different things. And as parents, that might be one of our pitfalls as parents, is we think we need to engage them with all these things. And you know what? It's okay. Our kids can be bored sometimes. Like they can do nothing. It's okay. They can just sit around, or they can just go and shoot hoops in the front yard if they want to, or just do whatever they want. But I think that's the key, is to give them all those different opportunities.
Okay. So, and I'm 100% agreement. So now we go, let's say 7, 8, 9-year-old, right? So we're still in elementary school. And now it seems like, oh, now they're big time ballers. I'm 4th grade, the CYO Division I team, or
Mhm.
I'm on the Bears football team, or I'm whatever it is. But now it seems to still, for some reason, I remember competing, but I don't remember it being uber competitive over the top, because I don't even know what the heck a trophy was. Like that wasn't even a thing, right?
Yeah.
It was more about, I'm trying to kick your butt when we play, we high five, and then we do it again. So is it, what happens in that 7, 8, 9, and what is that goal? What should we be looking for?
I mean, we should be teaching them how to fail. We should be teaching them that you can compete, and if you make mistakes, you make errors, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Not that we're okay with you failing, but we're okay that you did, and what do you need to do to get better and focus to improve. I think we make too much of the outcome. I think we do that just even as adults, right? We're focused on the outcome as opposed to just the opportunity, the journey, the
and
process.
the effort. Focus on the effort, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because that's, I mean, if you look across the board, it's March Madness right now, right? You're going to see teams win who are far less talented than the other team. Today and tomorrow, you're going to see an upset because somebody just went out and played harder.
Yeah.
And they got the loose ball or took the charge or whatever it is. That just doesn't happen overnight. Right. That kid has been taught that after years and years and years. And that's how people are successful. So I don't know, that age range is really weird too, because there's also some really crazy development going on. You could have the 6 foot tall 6th grader, right?
Yeah.
Who is a beast and is dominating every sport. Well, guess what? That kid is not going to grow anymore. They're already 6 foot tall in 6th grade, and they're dominating. And all of a sudden now they get to junior year in high school, and everyone else is now 6 foot tall, and they haven't grown in 6 years, and they haven't developed. And worst of all, maybe they've also been pigeonholed into a position. You're 6 foot tall in 6th grade, you're first base, and you never play anywhere else. And now all of a sudden everybody's that tall and everybody's as strong as you are. And you've actually put that kid at a disadvantage.
I love thinking of 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9 is kind of the wonder years.
Yeah.
First of all, you wonder what the heck they're thinking, but the other part is the ability to let them have fun and try everything. You know,
Mhm.
7, 8, 9, they should play. Oh my word. They should run, they should jump, they should jump rope, they should play whatever they show interest in, and a lot of it. And I think if we can get more kids to do that, then naturally they'll start to kind of gravitate toward what they're better at. And then the maturity, once they start to get to the 10, 11, 12 year olds, now all of a sudden their body kind of catches up. But like you said, if they don't have a fundamental of being able to stand on one leg, being able to hop, being able to do
Mhm.
those things, it's not going to help them 3 or 4
No.
years later. It has nothing to do with playing on the best travel team. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with being on the championship team. It has everything to do with that individual development, correct?
100%. And because I think that's the issue that we have is we have a conflict between I need to be our kids need to be competitive and they need to be working towards high school varsity and scholarships, right? And then you have the other one that, well, we just want to play for fun, right? Well, they can, both of those should intertwine. It should be fun and competitive, and you should be developing, right? Like there should be, both of those can intermix, because if you are a really good high school coach and you want your varsity teams to be good, you want your kindergartners in your school district to be doing basic fundamental motor movement school skills every single day. If I'm a basketball coach, I want every kid in my community to know how to skip, because if they can skip, then they can make a layup,
Right.
right? It's kind of counterintuitive to actually start to focus on one thing and only do one sport. You actually are not statistically going to improve if you do that. You're better off letting things develop and let the kids try all these different things and explore on their own physically, right? That is the best thing. And we all know as adults, psychologically, we get bored and we don't want to do the same thing every day. So why in the world would we tell a kid to do the same thing every day? Let them kind of explore and figure out and let it be their choice. If they make it their choice, they're going to be more intrinsically motivated to do it, and they're going to end up being more successful.
And instead of us having to scream and yell at them to go practice and do all those other things, right? Instead of that, we can let, you know what? They're interested. They showed interested. You know, we had a kid at one of our camps recently that she fell down because we do a back pedal, and she fell down and she started to cry. The coach dealt with it. It was fine. She had her get herself up, the whole deal. She went on. The parent called us and complained because why are we doing such dangerous activities? And it's backpedaling. And so the thing is, the child's 10 years old and she's never backpedaled before. Now I found out they don't have PE in their schools.
Yep.
So they haven't moved their bodies that way. And so we really need, I used to climb trees, for God's sake. You know what I mean? It was like, right. That's what we did. You know, that's how we learned to take healthy risks. And it was fun. And you built strength and you built confidence. You built all those things. Yeah. And we haven't even got to talk about sports yet, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're not saying you should go back to sitting in the back seat with no seatbelt and both parents smoking in the front seat. Yeah, I get it. Though we all know those things are foolish and we shouldn't do those things. But yes, hanging out a jungle gym and maybe falling and spraining your ankle or break your arm, like those things are going to happen. And no matter what we do, our kids are going to get hurt. I think we need to allow them to hurt, both physically and emotionally. Like you got kids, I got kids. Our kids go through ups and downs, and sometimes, you know what, they're going to get hurt, and that's just we're here to support them and be there for them. But their hearts are going to break. They're going to have issues, right? Like that's just going to happen. I mean, my oldest kid, I taught him basketball since he was little, and his mom taught him baseball. And guess what he's doing in college? Track. Like he didn't even start doing it till he was a senior in high school, and that's what he's doing in college. Like it is so far off of what we thought he would do, but it's like this is what he wants to do, and he's super motivated. It's like, great, go do your thing, man. Here we go.
Do your thing. Well, and our parents let us do our thing, and I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah. Again, there's the other side too, right? There might have been in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, parents were like, just leave the house. I don't want to talk to you. Go and be on your own. Yeah. Right? That's not what we're saying. We don't need to go back to that. We want you to be engaged. We want you to be supporting your kids. We want you to come to games. We want you to cheer and be there and support your kids. but you don't need to run onto the court when your child gets a foul and you don't agree with the call and go ballistic on an official.
So now we go back to, we're talking junior high. So let's say it's, I don't know, 11 to 14-year-olds, right? We're 12 to 14. We've got the 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and everybody's starting to get real concerned because, well, my kid isn't quite there yet, and we need to focus on this. And that next step is going into high school, right?
Yep.
So what should their development look like there?
I think it should still be the same thing. It's all about developmentally age appropriate. And again, that middle school age is a really tough time because kids are going through puberty and they can be at really different spots. But I see it as, I really do like track in this instance. Everything should be tailor made to the individual kid. Mm-hmm. If you got the 7th grader who's 200 pounds and a 7th grader who's 100 pounds, you're not going to give them the same weightlifting program, right? Same thing if you have a 7th grader who's reading at a 3rd grade level and you have a 7th grader who's reading at a sophomore level in high school, the English teacher is going to tailor those things in the classroom for that child. And that's what we should be doing with sports. I don't believe in the 12U, 13U, 14U. I know you have to do it because there's like a 1% crazies who change birth certificates and do all that stuff. But really what we should be doing is putting kids in the right age groups physically so that they can compete against other kids that are at the same physical level that they are at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get it. And I feel like if we can combine, obviously the higher level you go, like I tell everybody at the clinics we run, I say, if you're going to go out there and you're going to look for drills, there's this thing called YouTube. It's been around a little bit, right? So find your drills, but don't get the college drills where they're learning to dunk for your 3rd graders, right? So you got to, again, match up for your ages and your grades and make it work. Okay. Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And if coaches can do that and keep it simple, and that's the other thing, I've watched college coaches, Coach Geltzy, right, at Sonoma State, and guess what they did every single day, guys? Throwing, catching, base running, fielding. I mean, it's the same thing. So instead of trying to get it all over the top, I think the more that we can simplify and keep it athletic, like you said, and make that, I think that's a good way to go.
100%. Every team I ever coached, whether it was middle school travel ball with you and I did that, whether it was the JV or freshman team at Santa Rosa High School or the collegiate team when I was coaching at SWAC, we started every practice with galloping, sliding, hopping, skipping, all of the basic fundamental motor movement skills. And you know why we did that? I didn't think of that. You know who else used to do that? The Lakers and the Bulls used to do that with Phil Jackson. He did basic fundamental motor movement skills for arguably the best athletes in the world, right? It was still the same things. We do it at a different speed or a different cadence, but you're still doing those basic motor movement skills. And I'd have players look at me like, why are we skipping? I was like, just skip. Just give me a minute. Just skip. And then in a minute, we're going to do some layups, and I'm going to show you why skipping's important.
There's a famous movie, right? Wax on, wax off. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. It's not rocket science. This is not that bright. I'm not that bright, right? The DR is there, but that's just because I kept going to school and avoided getting a real job. Right. I knew that people wouldn't bother me if they thought I was still going to school and not have a real job. But I think, and I do, Aaron, the other thing I want to make a point too, because you said this, I think this is still important at the junior high level. Options. They have to have options. Expose them to every single thing you can expose them to. And then at some point it's going to click and they're going to go, I really like this. And it might not be what you want it to be as a parent.
Right.
It might be some random sport you've never heard of, but that's fine. It's going to click and they're going to be interested in it.
As long as it's not pickleball, I'm just kidding. No,
oh, you're going to get it. You're going to get it.
I'm going to get messages coming in.
Yes, you are.
All right. Let's shift a little bit here. I want to talk a little bit about teaching in youth sports in the setting, because I want to talk to you and have you explain so people understand the difference between coaching and teaching. Now, I know sometimes people feel they're the same, But I just want to make sure, especially we've got a lot of parent volunteers that tune in. We've got the rec space, right? Although I'll be honest with you, what I know you're going to say is also going to work for those coaches that think they, are the next Bobby Knight. I get it, but let's stay in our lane, right? Let's stay in our lane. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're interchangeable to some extent. I think people use the word coaching as a scapegoat to be able to yell and scream. But if you're a coach on the sideline during a sporting event, and I'm not sure if it matters what level you are. If all you're doing is constantly yelling, it's going to drown out. Pat Kennedy taught me that early on. You shouldn't have to yell that much. You should be able to have conversations. They should be able to hear you with normal voice, call timeouts, just talk to your kids. It's no different again than the classroom. Yeah. A history teacher shouldn't have to yell and scream to motivate you to learn history. Why should I have to yell and scream in the gym? But I think that persona has been like, oh, that's what coaches do. It's like, no, we yell sometimes because it's a big area and we want to make sure everybody hears us. But to me, it's just teaching is trying to get someone to change a behavior that they didn't either know they could change or they don't know how to change, right? So if I'm teaching you how to do something, and if I truly believe that you can do it, if you want to do it, and you don't do it, then there must be something wrong with how I'm conveying that and I'm communicating, right? Teaching is communication. Right. So if I tell you to do something or ask you to do something or however it's presented and you don't do it correctly or as perfect as I thought or whatever, it's either I didn't explain it correctly or sometimes there is you aren't motivated and you just didn't work hard enough to do it. But I think if we have I've got a bunch of sticky notes in my office with quotes and things. And one of them is people do well if they can. Kids will do well if they can. If they're not, maybe we need to look at ourselves and go, okay, I need to change how I'm communicating with you.
Right.
I mean, you just told me you got 16 franchises now, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people you interact with. Right. If you send out an email to everybody in your organization, there's 100 people and no one responds, or let's say even 10 people respond.
Right.
Your email was bad.
Yeah.
Like something's not working. That doesn't work. And then if you text them and they don't respond, and if you call them and they don't respond, well, then walk down the hall and just knock on the door.
Right.
This is not a them problem, right? And this is not a kid problem. Kids want to please, right? I mean, we all want to please. But if you're working with a group of middle schoolers and the kid messes the layup up 17 times in a row, maybe you need to change how you're teaching them. And that's what I think teaching is. Teaching is not necessarily did the kids get it? The teaching is, am I thinking about how I'm conveying that information to them? And are they receiving it and changing and improving?
So I want to sum it up. If you're going to coach, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
If you're teaching, Coach George Carl taught me you should have 3 distinct drills to teach the same skill.
Yep.
Because then, like you just said, there's different variety, and some people learn it this way, and some this way, and going forward. And we know that some will learn, kinesthetically, some will learn just by watching, whatever the case is. But the bottom line is if you're going to teach, you're going to coach, you have to teach. One thing that I love, and watching you do it, but and I tried to do it, and many do, is to do a lot of teaching during practice.
Mm-hmm.
During the games, that's when you can make minor directions and corrections. But realistically, you got to allow them to play the game and figure it out for themselves. Because if you don't, then it's just going to control it, and it's going to stop that from their development from happening anyways. And the hardest part is being okay with failure, understanding that that's how they're going to learn best, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I actually, off topic, but on topic, I just have this conversation. Both boys are home right now. Joseph's home for spring break. And these 2 guys love TikTok, and they were doing a TikTok video last night, and I heard the song they were doing it to. And I just kind of go, hey, you guys think that's appropriate? So we ended up with this conversation that I do not, as an almost 50-year-old guy, think it's appropriate to put on TikTok. But we had a good back and forth. And I was like, listen, guys, I'm not saying you can't post it. What I'm trying to teach you is that some people will not appreciate that. You might be, and you have to learn to accept that. Right. And I think that's part of what we do right now. Even as adults, we try and tell them what to do. And what I'm trying to change with my own kids is, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you the consequences of what what your actions could be. You can
Right.
you can complain about it. You can be mad that you didn't get hired for the job because you've got blue hair and a tattoo or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in teaching. Look, I'm going to show you in practice how to do this. Now, when the game comes and you didn't listen to me or didn't change behavior, and in the game you missed those layups and I pull you out, I'm going to have a go, listen, remember when I told you, like,
Right.
if you don't play hard, I'm going to pull you out of the game. I think that's our job as parents, is I'm just going to lay it out there for you. This is
Right.
what's going to happen. This is how this could end up. And then I'm not going to tell you I told you so, but this is the way it's going to be.
And I think it's such a great way to set the table and say, look, here's what's going to happen here. This is the foundation of the fundamental skills I need you to learn. This is why I need you to learn them. This is what's
Sure.
in it for you if you do learn them.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where we go forward from there.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is individual accountability, because sometimes I think we lose sight that the accountability seems to be punitive rather than, wait a second, we had an agreement that this is what we were going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Just like anything else. Mike, you agreed to go to work, and you don't show up for work, you don't still get a paycheck.
No, you do not. And that is part of our issue. I mean, I'm not going to get political, but freedom of speech is, yes, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are still consequences for certain things. You and I are not going to be on this call and drop 300 F-bombs.
Right.
Like this is not the appropriate time or place to do that. Like,
right.
So, and there are certain times and places that you can have freedom of speech and say certain things, but there are still, consequences sometimes for doing certain things. If I had a face tattoo and I tried to get a job in education, it might not work in education.
Right.
I can be upset about it. I cannot agree with it, but that is just the reality.
And it's across the board. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about balancing skill development and fun so kids want to keep playing. We'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings, remotely manage facility access, update digital displays in real time, coordinate fountains and splash pads, provide public connectivity, and even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens, all from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Welcome back, everybody. Mike, all right. So when we left, we were just talking about kind of well, we went all over the map, but that's how we roll, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love it because it's it's these tidbits that you take notes in this thing. You're man, look at all this stuff. But all right, look, a big one for me is that I find a lot of kids. They say they're aging out. They're and the problem is it's not even. I think that they just step away because they can't do it. I think they step away because it's not fun. But I think there's a combination of the two. So I want you to talk a little bit about, if you're a youth coach, about, because you mentioned proximal play, and I think it's important we dive in a little bit different and a little bit more about the balance between playing and having fun and the skills and drills. Coach Pyramid of Success is perfect. Industrious enthusiasm, putting those together. Play hard, have fun. So roll with it, buddy.
I think my question for most kids is why. And when I do clinics and talk to kids and parents, I ask them why. Well, why as a parent are you putting your kid in the sport? And as a kid, I ask the kids, why are you playing? Because statistically, they're going to tell you they're playing because it's fun. They're playing because they got friends, and they're playing because they're going to learn something, right? And if at some point their friends aren't playing and it's not fun anymore because it's just more about the outcome, always about the outcome. And if they don't see themselves, they're aging out because they're not very good. So if I don't think I'm going to make the varsity team, or I don't think I'm going to make the 8th grade team, they go, well, I'm not going to try because I'm not good enough. And again, that goes back to why. Why are you doing that? That's why the multi-sport athletes are great, because that kid that's a really good football player who's a mediocre basketball player, if they just go play basketball, they're also going to learn how to be a better teammate. And they're going to appreciate it more when they're the star player on one team and a backup on another team. And that, I think that's the issue, is if they're doing it because they want the likes and the clicks and they need to be, on the varsity team someday, then they're doing it for the wrong reason. And that's easy for us to say because we're old and we've been through this already.
Yeah.
Really, it's about the process. And that's when my kids have stopped playing a sport, I've always asked them a question. I said, you have 2 mistakes you can make. You can regret not playing, and you can regret playing. Which one do you want to potentially have in 6 months? Because you can play and it may not be a good experience. You might sit on the bench or whatever, and you can regret that. Or you can not play and you're going to be sitting home watching everybody else. So again, trying to let them make that decision and give them as much information as possible. But I think that's the key with kids, is find out what their why is. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why did they choose this, or why do they keep going? And then our job, I think, as adults, is to steer them. If they say, well, I just want to be on varsity, I want to call it, we're like, okay, let's tone it down. Our job is to try and, what about all these other things that you can get out of sport? Like, right. I mean, I didn't get into sport to be a collegiate player, a collegiate athlete, but Aaron, if I didn't get into sports, I would have never met you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. And the majority of the people that we meet in our lives, right? I have this huge social base of people that I know, and just because of sport. Yeah. It is absolutely crazy. So, and that has nothing to do with wins or losses or whatever. I think our job is to steer them in that. But my question for kids is why? Why are you doing this? Why?
Okay. And then as a coach, because I think there's this misnomer that if they're not having fun, let me rephrase. If they're doing skill development drills, it can't be fun. They got to be working hard. You got to work harder. You got to this. And I feel like, that's where my talk, teach, play comes from, because it allows them 3 minutes of, look, we're going to talk just for real quick so you understand what's going on. We're going to practice skills and drills for 6 minutes, and then we're going to play. And when you play, we just leave them alone, right? And that balance of there. But I think it's so important, because I've seen coaches where they say, hey, come in and watch me practice. I'm going to show you the team. And the first thing you do is scrimmage for 30 minutes. I go, well, that's not practice. That's just scrimmage.
Yeah, you usually see the two sides, right? You're either going to see the coach that talks for 2 hours and the kids barely do anything, or you're going to see the coach that rolls out the ball and they just play for 2 hours. And neither one of those is good, right? There's got to be a balance. But I went and watched Chip Kelly practice at U of O, and U of O and NCAA has very strict time limits, right? And they had 12-minute blocks. They had 4 minutes individual work, 4 minutes of small group work, 4 minutes live 11 on 11. And then they took a break, quick 30 seconds, get a drink of water, and go start it over again. Work on a different skill, small group, large groups, individual, small group, large group. And I think that's the key is sometimes coaches, again, going back to what does a teacher or coach look like? It's organized chaos, especially at the younger ages, right? Stop talking so much. They don't hear you anyways. It's the peanuts. They just hear want, one thing, and let them go and explore. It's called guided discovery. That's where your talk, teach, play is a very basic guided discovery teaching method where you give them a little information, you let them go and practice it with a little bit of feedback, right?
Yeah.
And you let them do it in a live actual thing where they can actually practice that skill that they were doing in a controlled setting after you talked about it. And then you go back. And if you blew the whistle every time they did something wrong, you would never stop.
It just stops the fun of it. And again, they'll learn through their mistakes by the ball being stolen from them. And then the other team gets the ball. And then that's part of the progress. So when we talk about, I think a lot of people think that I'm anti-club or anti-travel, and I'm really not, but I'm more whittled down for who does it. Would you talk a little bit about your experience or your thought process about rec sports? Because rec sports gets a bad name too. A lot of people are like rec sports is a waste of time. Like, hey, man, you saw the video just a minute ago.
The video is great because I love the just rec. Because I'm pretty sarcastic, and just for the record, sarcasm is really bad for teaching and coaching. You should not.
Yeah. By the way, don't do that. Yeah.
Don't do that with kids. But the just rec cracks me up because you hear people use that all the time. Well, you're just a teacher, or you're just a mom. Like, do you work? No, I stay at home. Oh, you're just a mom. It's like, it's so condescending, but it's so kind of right on the nose, kind of funny. It's not just rec. It's so many other things that really have nothing to do with skill development.
Yeah.
Because there is no skill that we're going to ever teach this kid physically that they're really going to use later on in life, unless they become a coach or a teacher or something like that. I do not come to work and do anything in my job with shooting a basketball.
Right.
But everything I learned within sports about working with people that I don't always get along with, working with people who are different than me, and engaging with people and getting up every day and working hard and communicating. Those are all things that I learned through sport, right? Those are all how to communicate with difficult people and get something you want. That I learned that with officials. Like that's an official, as you know, an official is hated by 50% of the people in the gym, no matter what they do. Yeah. What an incredible, you have to be a good communicator to be able to do that. And that's, as a kid and playing sports and then coaching, that's what I learned how to do. And even now I learned it. Well, you're letting that person get away with it. It's like, no, it's not going to change. So let's just continue to have this conversation with people. I think the fun part of it, and why can't development be fun? Yeah. And it's going to be fun if the kid knows how to do something and does it better and better. It becomes more fun. Aaron Judge probably has a lot of fun because he's a really good baseball player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The bad players aren't always having as much fun. So let's teach them all how to do things better so that it is more fun for them.
Yeah.
But
I think the interesting thing is that the coaches that I think that have the most success, and by the way, I measure success by the kids wanting to come back and play the next season.
100%.
That's success, right? Mm-hmm. Then you've done your job. There probably means they've learned some skills. They're a better citizen. Jim Perry, right? Make better citizens right across the board. A superstar camp. And that's our goal, Yep. And as we build these things up. So at what point do you think, it's funny because I hear people say age, and I think what you said is so important, is like, when do you switch from rec to club? And I think, you know what, guys, there isn't a magic age, right?
No. There's not. And you can do both.
Yeah.
Why can't you do both? I mean, do we really need to spend the money to go and play all these places and travel all over the place? Maybe not. But why not try to do both? Why not try to figure that out to do a little bit locally? And if you are good enough and you want to travel a couple times a year, go ahead. But
what do you tell the parent that said, well, I read this thing about 10,000 hours, and I read this thing that if you want to be the best, you got to play against the best?
I mean, if your goal ultimately is to get your kid a college scholarship, That doesn't happen in 7th and 8th grade. I mean, once you get to high school, maybe, maybe people are going to start to look at you and see you, and they're going to find you. I just don't believe that. I mean, yes, can it help? But I'm sorry, but LeBron James was going to be LeBron James.
Right.
He could have played rec all the way through and never done any travel ball, and he's still going to be LeBron James. He
did play rec. He played rec football.
Yeah.
He played rec football. That's where he started out.
Yeah.
And then he got too big and he's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. It's the keeping up with the Joneses, and we got to do this, we got to do that. And I think the risk reward is too great. I think we see it with the portal at the college level now. Every kid wants to go in because they think something's better. But statistically, if you look around the country, statistically, kids are moving sideways. If you're D1, you move to another D1. If you're D2, you move to another D2. There are few and far between the stories of the kids who are blowing up. And
I want to make sure that parents are hearing this, especially if you're looking for your kid to get a college scholarship, play college. Just check this out. The first thing the college coach does is recruit their own players again. Right, because we got to do that because of the portal. The second is they go to find the kids that they played against and go, I'm going to weaken that team by recruiting that kid over to play with me, right? That's Division I. Then they go down to Division II, NAIA, JC, International, right? They're not, the Division I is not anymore going down to high school and saying, I want that kid. It's not happening. And it doesn't mean it's a rarity that the kid's 6'11" and this and that, but they're not spending the time. You know why they're not? Because, Mike, if I recruited your 6'11" kid that maybe was a high school player and he comes and plays for me, there's no guarantee, because he's probably not going to play his first year. Yeah. There's no guarantee he's going to play from next year because someone else has more money in the NIL and he's gone anyways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the two pieces, too, of the high school and the AAU or the club or whatever it is, what I hear from coaches now is twofold, just exactly what you said. There are more Division II players, NCAA in California, going D1 than there are junior college players going Division I. So you got to hedge your bet. The high school kid, on the other hand, who plays club is now to some extent not really learning how to compete, because the games are set up. And the coaches are like, oh, so-and-so's here to watch you, so I'm going to put you in the game. And it's more about, I'm just going to showcase. Yeah. And then the kid gets to the college level and doesn't know how to compete for a spot, doesn't know how to compete in a game. And that, I think, is the bigger issue that we see at the collegiate level, is the kids come to us and think, well, everybody's going to play and everything's going to work out. And they're like, no, this is not club ball. No. And I think that's the contrast with the high school. Because the high school coaches want their kids because they want to compete and they want to win a state title. But there are athletes now in different states who, if they're playing on a club soccer team, for example, that club actually has a rule that you cannot play on the high school team.
Right. That's insane.
It is. To me, I think it's insane. And I think it totally changes the kids' experience. Yeah. High school. Now, again, is that your decision? Yes. Parents get to make it. The kid gets to make the decision. I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't be able to make the decision. Again, going back to the example with my two boys last night, I'm going to tell you these are your two choices, and there's going to be a potential outcome. So you need to understand, like, I did learn something in statistics. Like there are two outcomes here that could happen from your choices, and two of them could be bad and two of them could be good. You can go play in the club soccer team and you can get the D1 scholarship and everything's great, but you're also going to miss out on X, Y, or Z.
Playing in front of of the school and having the opportunity to the camaraderie and all that. I mean, it's just, I remember, walking around campus and be like, the relationship was there. And just like you said, that you get a chance to build that out. Yeah. So, obviously I'm a camp guy. You're a camp guy. We grew up and we're the camp people, in terms of doing that. But I want from your perspective, because I feel like what's happened, Rick Barry, he railed on this about kids are playing too many games. Mm-hmm. They're not learning the fundamentals. So the balance between camps and clinics compared to traditional league play. Would you talk a little bit about that? Because I think skill development and confidence, just because your son is on the national championship team, if he's number 13 out of 12, that's not really making him that much of a better player, especially depending on the development of practice. But if he goes to a camp where they're learning fundamental skills and the focus is more on the effort and the fundamentals than the outcome, I think there's a difference there, correct?
There's got to be a balance. That's what I think. We don't have a balance because we're fighting with each other, right? The AAUs and the club stuff is fighting because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're fighting with the camps and the rec stuff instead of trying to coexist, because the European model is you practice 6 days a week and you play once, right? But in the US, we're playing 4 or 5 days a week and practicing or training once or twice. It's counterintuitive to development. Again, we don't do it in education. We don't take a test every single day in math, right? We take it like once a month or every 2 weeks or whatever. We take the SATs maybe twice a year, junior and senior year, potentially. You don't do it every single day. And that's what the games are. Games are tests. Like you said earlier, you're learning and you're teaching and you're in practice every day. Once the game comes, that's your test. Let the kids play and do that. But I think we're better served on a Saturday of getting a 1 or 2 hour practice and maybe a scrimmage than we are with 3 games on a Saturday.
Right.
We're not necessarily learning anything in that time. Now, if you're trying to get seen, yes, there are showcases, there are things. Absolutely, 100%. You can be strategic. And if you got that club team, great. But really, you can do your development locally with whoever is there, with the rec sports, with the camps. And then if you can get in those showcases, go and do that. But I think we're just in conflict with each other right now on those two things.
Well, and I would say that any coach that's in club that is telling you that your child must play year round for them and can't play other sports and can't play high school, can't do other things, they're not putting your child, right? They're not putting your child, that kid first, right?
No. And it's so tough too, because I'm sure, and I know there are some great AAU and club programs out there that are developing kids and doing things right. I think it's usually a few that are, spoiling it for everybody, right? But when money is involved, you change the dynamics. So if I know I need 12 kids on my team and you're all paying $5,000 to be on my team, heck yeah, I'm going to tell you that you have to come and play with me and be here all the time. But I don't know if you remember specifically, but when I worked with you with University of Sports, like we were doing clinics 4 nights a week.
Yep.
And we were only practicing with our club teams like once or twice a week.
Right.
And those kids were also coming to all the camps that we were doing. Like we would have 4 teams in the same age group. They all practiced together, 3 or 4, or went to camp together, practice. Right. And then once or twice a week, we got to just work with our 10 kids.
Right.
And then we went and played on Saturday.
Yeah.
So it was like the best of both worlds.
Right.
You did all the skill development, you did a little bit of team stuff, and then you played once a week.
And you know what's funny? The kids actually really excelled, but they fell in love. They keep wanting to play. I mean, we grew that program from 18 kids to over 320 kids in like 11 months. Yeah. Right. So the model works. And I'm just wondering, like, wow, how did we just left that, and it's just weird that we're in this place, since 2008, a lot of shifts, 2014, 2020, it's like every 6 years, it's like this, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, people sold them other people on, this is going to help you get, to the next level. And that's, and really, honestly, it pushed out those types of organizations, because I do think there's been a pendulum shift to, well, what you're talking about, Aaron, is a trophy for everybody. And that's just soft. Our kids need to be tough. And this is how this works. And it's survival of the fittest. It's like, that is not what we're talking about. We are not trophies and ribbons for everybody. We're trying to get everybody to be active. And that's what I've said this to you before. And people freak out when I say it, but I'm a socialist when it comes to youth sports, man. Why? And if I'm a high school or college coach, I want every single kid to participate, because I don't want to see that 6'8" kid walk onto campus in high school and go, who are you? Well, I don't play any sports. Why not? Because I had a bad experience when I was in the 5th grade or 4th grade, and I don't want to do it anymore. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
What are we doing, man?
You can't teach height as a basketball coach.
No.
You can't teach that.
No. And we both know what sport does for people long term.
Right.
Kids who participate in athletics and in competitive things, they live longer, healthier lives. They become leaders. They just do so many other things that have nothing to do with the sport that they learn from sport.
You know, they also have better spatial relations. I was in the airport with a friend of mine who coached a long time, and we got off the flight and we're walking, and someone just stopped literally in the middle, blocking everybody. And he goes, "She's never played sports before." And I was just, I'm like, you know, right? Because you just don't do that. You know what I mean? It's like the way people drive. You know, my mom and I used to crack up because she was an artist and she would do one thing at a time. And it was just, so when we drove with my mom, it'd drive me nuts. She'd get in the slow lane and she would drive. And like, if there's a car stopped, she would just wait. And I'm like, no, there's a passing lane. We got to go. You know, like, I'm a guard. We're moving. You know, across the board. All right, let's get back to it. So we're talking about life skills through sports, right? And I know there's this component that people have talked about, SEL, and look, SEL is just what we learn through sport when it's done the right way. But a little bit, give me a couple of skills that you think that are really important that are gained through sports that kids learn that carry into adulthood. Like one of the ones that's big for me is resiliency. Mm-hmm. You know, if you learn how to fail without feeling like you're a failure, and you accept individual accountability for that, and you learn from that, you grow from that, then you glow from that, I feel like that's a biggie.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've stopped actually using the word fail when I talk to kids anymore. I just talk about mistakes because there really is, I don't know what fail means. What do we mean we failed? Like you failed your math test, you know, halfway. Does that mean you failed the class? Even if you fail the class, you get an F in the class, you can still go retake the class.
Right.
I don't understand. You've had multiple businesses. Does that mean you've failed at one business? No. Right. You made a mistake, or we made mistakes, or a kid makes mistakes. And sport teaches you that. Depending on the sport, it really teaches you the patience between those things. Because baseball, you strike out, you walk back to the dugout, you may not even get it in at bat that game again.
Yeah.
Basketball, I miss a shot, I can go get my own rebound. I can make a mistake and go fix it immediately. And some sports are going to change how we do those things and how we deal with those mistakes and those errors. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, one of the biggest things other than communication, because that was going to be my main answer, is when we make mistakes, owning those mistakes, which is something that we don't do very well as a society. We don't just say, that was my fault. I am sorry. I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry it happened that way. How can I make it up to you? How can I fix this? And we got to take accountability for things.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to get political either, but our society sure could use that across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the communication comes in. It's like, why are you denying this? When I have conduct issues with athletes over the years, it's like, well, why did that person get special treatment? No, that person didn't get special treatment. They came in and they owned it immediately. And this is the military will do this. The military, the guy who comes in and denies it 6 times in a row is going to get kicked out of the military. The guy that comes in and owns it immediately and says, I screwed up. I am sorry. How do I fix it? What's my consequence? That's, I think, the communication from that with adults and with people has been one of the best things for my boys and that I've learned over the years of how to communicate with people in the appropriate way. And because everything in communication is timing. If I get an email from an athlete or a parent who's upset about something, it is immediate. It's an immediate response. Okay. Hey, I hear you. Can I talk to you? What's going on? I want to deal with. If I wait and don't respond, that is worse, even no matter what the outcome is. Because I'm telling you, in the leadership roles I've been in, 99% of the time, I can't fix the problem for them.
Right.
Mom and dad are mad. I hear you. I'm listening, but it's not going to change. They're not really concerned about it changing. Right. They want to be heard. And
that most of us, right? That's the first word. They want to be heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. So communication, man, that's
communication.
I
want to shift into be better. I want you to kind of explain a little bit. I think it's really cool. And we're down to a couple minutes. So let's dive in and talk about, hashtag be better just sounds like a really cool thing, but some people don't know what it is.
Yeah, thanks, man. The podcast has been so much fun. We just recorded our 40th episode last night, actually. We release every 2 weeks on Spotify and on Apple. And really, when it started a year and a half ago, I do it with two of my really good buddies, Jared Gardner, who's been a dean of students and has a background in psychology, and my buddy Mike Story, who's been a coach and is now a farmer. And we just literally just try and talk to the most interesting people like yourself. You've been on the show, and we want to learn about how your life has changed and been different and been better, and how you become a better person every day compared to yourself and not to anybody else. And that's the whole concept of be better is, what are you going to do today to be better than you were yesterday? And what are you going to do tomorrow to be better than you were today?
Love that.
So, yeah, I love it, man. It's been one of the most fun things to do. I really enjoy these conversations. I love doing the podcast and sharing information with people and just learning about all the great people out there.
Okay, so how do people find out about it? How do people see it? How do people get in touch with you on social media? Like, how do we go about that?
Yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook. So you can just check out the hashtag Be Better on Facebook and Instagram. You can email me at bebetter.dr@gmail.com. But you can reach out Instagram and Facebook. And I've got great people surrounding me. My buddy Mike's wife, Sharon, does all my social media. She's a retired kindergarten teacher and just does incredible thought-provoking things on our social media. So you definitely want to check out those posts that she puts up there every couple of days. And you can find the podcast is on Spotify and Apple.
And if someone wanted, let's say I run a league and I wanted a coach's clinic or something, I know that you work with us here at the National Cab Athletics. What's the best way to kind of even start that conversation?
Same thing. Email me, reach out to me or to you, Aaron. If they can get a hold of you, you're going to get them in touch with me and we'll talk. I've got a 24-hour rule on emails and phone calls. So if somebody reaches out to me, I'll get back to you within 24 hours and we will figure something out. I don't say no to anybody. We just might have to change the date or the time and figure it out.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So,
all right. Yeah. Well, that's a wrap this week on the Youth Sports Mastery. Mike, I always enjoy the conversation. And man, we did go all over the place, but I think we came home, man.
I think so.
It was a good one.
I hope so. It was great to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate everybody. Remember, when you're out there with kids, remind them every day to play hard and have fun. And we'll see you next time on the Youth Sports Mastery, where we get to talk, teach, and play. Have a good one. Take care.
Not every job happens behind a desk. Some happen where decisions are made in seconds, where pressure is real, and where people show up no matter what. This is the front line. It's where service meets reality, where responsibility isn't optional, and where impact is measured in people, not headlines. We follow the men and women who stand first to respond, first to protect, first to act when it matters most. They don't do it for recognition. They do it because someone has to. On this show, we go where the work happens, beyond the uniforms, beyond the titles, beyond the noise. We hear the stories, the challenges, the moments that test them, and the purpose that keeps them going. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. Real people, real pressure, real service. This is where it begins. Stories from the front. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.